It's time for the Las Vegas Sportsline, brought to you by the Sunset Station with sports director Chuck Esposito. Presented by WagerTalk.com.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Monday edition of the Las Vegas Sportsline. It is the Monday afternoon quarterback edition of the Las Vegas Sportsline. Here you go, Mark. There's the number to call. We'll get Chuck Esposito up momentarily. It's brought to you by Sunset Station, Station Casinos. And on Mondays, we are usually down at Sunset Station in Club Madrid, but Chuck's busy today at Red Rock. He's going to take a little time out of his schedule to do our Monday afternoon quarterback session. Marco D'Angelo's here. Mark Seidel's at the controls. And I'm Dave Koken. Obviously, we have a bunch of stuff to talk about in addition to the football recap from yesterday. But I will tell you this, and we'll get validation on this from Chuck. A memorably great day for the bettors, and that means a memorably bad day for the books.
Yeah, it's been that's 3 weeks in a row now, Dave, that the NFL's not been good for the books.
But this was really bad.
Yeah, this I've heard somebody say this ranks in right up there in the top 4 or 5 Sundays for a long time. So, but let's not feel too bad, though. Time is on the book side.
Sure, yeah. Well, that's, we bring Chuck Esposito in now, and, that's the way it rolls sometimes, Chuck. The players got rich yesterday, which means the books didn't, but, next week could be a different story entirely.
It absolutely could. Came on just on time to hear you guys, but yeah, overall a really good day for the players yesterday. I think you look at the fact that it was a smaller schedule with 6 teams on bye, wasn't quite as many games, and you had teams like the Steelers and the Chiefs and the Panthers and the Bears and the Vikings and the Patriots all get there. It kind of was a perfect storm as far as that goes. But there was long lines last night. I just peeked out at the counter. There's still long lines today, so it means they're back having some fun, and there's a big Monday night game today, but overall it was a good Sunday for the guests yesterday.
And just before we get into the recaps, is there any side tonight that's preferred by the bettors, or is this going to be a 50-50 type game?
Well, I think early on when the number was 6.5, you definitely saw some action on the Titans plus the 6.5 and 6. I think once it got kind of below 5 at that 4.5 plateau, you started to see some Cowboy money show. You've still seen an onslaught of Cowboy money. I think at 5, you're looking at kind of a dead number. But from our side of the counter, we're definitely going to be rooting for the double T's tonight in the Tennessee Titans.
All right, well, let's get it rolling with the Monday afternoon quarterback session, and we'll begin with we take these in schedule order, and we'll begin with the Lions and Vikings. And really, one big play swung this game. I have no idea what Stafford was doing on this play, but it ended up turning into 6 points for the Vikings, and that was the end of the game. And it kind of looks like the Lions are going to be the team that's out in the NFC Central.
I thought they were from the beginning. We had talked about that the Lions may be the worst team in the NFC North. That play, that pitch back to Kerryon Johnson that turned into 6 the other way. But I really think it was more than that. You look at the 10 sacks. I don't think they were even that close. They lose by 15 points, but the Vikings pretty much dominated that game. That offense is a lot better with Delvin Cook. They didn't have Stephon Diggs, but I still think the Vikings are going to be the team to beat in the NFC North. I know the Bears are on top right now at 5-3. They still play each other twice this season, but it's a Lion team that seems to be regressing right now. Offensively, they really have their struggles, and you have to wonder after trading Golden Tate how that's going to affect that offense long term.
Did you look at that as a bit of a punt by the organization as far as this season's concerned, because they really don't have a replacement on the current roster for Tate?
Yeah, I thought with Jones and the emergence of Galladay, and I really like Galladay a lot. I think he had kind of become that number one wideout on that team. They had a couple of other young wideouts as well, and I think they had kind of changed their offensive philosophy with Kerryon Johnson and Blunt. They were able to run the ball so much better. Riddick being a third down type back, I think they were more balanced on offense. It appeared they weren't going to sign Tate when his contract was up to a long-term deal, so I don't think it was a bad move because they did have some young wideouts, but he kind of was the face of that offense for the last several years.
You saw it on third down. They were only 4 or 15 on third down. They didn't have a playmaker that Stafford could go to with confidence. That was the key stat.
Marco, just couldn't protect him at all day.
Yeah, they're going backwards. Matt Patricia, that was the one hire that, again, everybody loves the, jump on that family tree, the coaching tree of Bill Belichick, but they haven't done well in the past, although Bill O'Brien.
None of them have Tom Brady.
Yeah, this is true. That's the key ingredient.
Very true.
Go to the next game, and we're going to look at Kansas City and Cleveland. And you know what? I saw it again yesterday. Some of the sharps were trying the Cleveland side. At what point, I look at the toy soldier. You remember you used to have as a kid that would just bounce into the wall and just keep going, turn around, and walk to it, hits another wall. That's what they're doing with the Browns again this year.
I think that toy soldier actually fell down and his head snapped off. But I'm frustrated from our side of the counter because the coaching changes that occurred last Monday with Jackson being let go and then the offensive coordinator as well. I mean, and you saw some early action on Cleveland, but it was just an onslaught of Chief money. I mean, there's no question that these two teams are totally different. The Chiefs are a team that the bettors have backed week in and week out. I think only one non-cover so far this season, and that kind of set the stage for us. Jason McCormick and myself were talking about it before we got on the air that we almost need the Browns to cover if you're going to have a good week in pro football, and when that doesn't occur, you're behind the eight ball. And in this particular case, there was just an onslaught of Chief money throughout that morning and leading up to Sunday.
Was that the biggest teaser of the day?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, this next game, we were just talking about this before we came on the air. And the signature play in this game, the big play in the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game, was what after Ben Roethlisberger had to go off the field after landing on his shoulder or his wrist, I couldn't tell what. Josh Dobbs comes in, and Mike Tomlin has the guts to go ahead and throw the ball on third down when I think everybody in the stadium thought there'll be a draw play and then punt. He completes the pass, and to me, that was the game right there.
I think it was the game, but this doesn't look like the same Baltimore Raven team from 3 weeks ago. I mean, before they went into that game against the Saints, I know we had talked about it. I still thought they were the best team in the AFC North. That defense was playing so well. I think they were number one or number two in the NFL. Offense seemed to be playing a lot better. You had John Brown, you had Crabtree, you had given Flacco a couple more weapons. But I watched a lot of that game yesterday. It didn't matter who was throwing the ball. The Baltimore Raven defense could not get off the field on third downs. There were so many opportunities that they could have shut the Steelers down, third and long. I think that's why Tomlin made that decision to throw, because that defense looked out of sorts. Flacco was holding the ball way too long, took way too many sacks yesterday. They're on a bye week, and you've heard some rumblings about Harbaugh being on the hot seat, which is kind of hard to believe. But you look at the Steelers right now at 5-2-1. They're playing some of their best ball. They may be getting Bell back soon. I think they're one of those teams right now that you're going to continue to see the public back, especially as they're playing so good, and the Ravens, Bengals, and Browns are all trending the other way.
Do they want Bell back at this point? I'm telling you what, James Conner has turned into one heck of a running back, and I don't know if I want to disturb the chemistry on this team.
Well, I think if they could go back, they probably would have looked to deal him, not knowing what they had in Connor. But you're right, Connor's played so well. That offense seems to be clicking right now. You've got a young wideout in Juju Smith-Schuster to complement Antonio Brown. You've got a defense that's starting to get healthy and play better. But you have to wonder what they're going to do with Bell. If you do bring him back, though, he's got fresh legs. You can spell Connor somewhat, and you really have that two-headed monster they can dominate in that division. And as the weather gets cold and being able to run the ball, that might be more of a blessing than anything else at this point.
One of the beat writers that I follow out of Pittsburgh had a very good article today about the situation with Bell and Connor, and he pointed out that James Conner is going to be getting into a territory where he's never had this many touches in a season. Remember, a college football season is much shorter, and he's never been the featured back. He wants Bell back just to be the number two guy and to spell Connor to have him fresh for the.
If Bell's the number two guy, is that going to set well enough with Bell? Is he going to be a team guy in that situation, or is he going to break up the clubhouse? I don't know.
Don't forget, he's still looking for that big deal.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think he will be a number two. As well as Connor's played, you're still talking about Le'Veon Bell. I think, at the very least, you're looking at some sort of a 50-50 split. But as they continue to move on, and if they're in the playoffs and it's against the Chiefs or Patriots, Bell is still going to be that guy. But I think both running backs will get a lot of work. But as Marco said, you're absolutely right about Connor. He's logged a lot more carries, and he's been involved in a lot more plays than ever at the collegiate level. So I think it's a win-win for them if Bell does come back, and he is the same Le'Veon Bell that we've seen in the past.
All right, moving on to the next one, Tampa Bay and Carolina. This is the type of game that in the past, Chuck, Carolina would, after that series of big games, even though this was a division game, this is where they would lay an egg. They didn't lay an egg yesterday. They put up a ton of points, and Cam Newton quietly is having a good season.
I have to, full disclosure, I bet Carolina under their win total this year, and one of the primary reasons I did so was I thought, boy, Norv Turner, really? I thought the game had passed him by. I got that one wrong, Chuck. I'm going to lose that bet, and Norv Turner is doing just fine.
I think we all did. I think when you looked at Carolina, nobody knew. A lot of people thought maybe they'd be the third or the fourth best team in that division. I think that Turner does so well. He excels in that role as an offensive coordinator. I think he's able to capitalize on what the strengths of his quarterback is and what his offense does. And I think he's done a phenomenal job with that. The way he uses McCaffrey out of the backfield, I think it's a big part now that they have Greg Olsen back. It's added another dimension to that offense. DJ Moore's gotten involved a little bit. You've got Devin Funchess, but I love the way that offense is playing. And you look at that division, and the Saints are getting all the ink right now because they're so good and number one seed in the NFC. But if it wasn't for the Saints, you think about the Carolina Panthers at that record at 6-2, they'd be one of the teams that we're talking about that's a legitimate Super Bowl contender. So I think they're really good right now. They're playing well. They've got a big Thursday night test against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah. But you look at what they've done the last couple of weeks, the way they dominated Baltimore and all the points they put on the board and all the points they put on the board against Tampa, which isn't a tough task, but still that offense seems to be playing really, really well right now.
The next one up is the Jets in Miami, and you look at Sam Darnold, and he's going backwards right now. Another 4 interceptions, bad spot for the Jets. In Miami, they didn't do anything. They did enough to win.
Terrible field conditions.
Yeah, I think the field conditions were a big part of it. But, Darnold doesn't have a lot around him right now to help. And I think we saw that with Jared Goff. You saw that with Mitchell Trubisky last year. You need to have those wide receivers that can help you and complement what you do and help that maturation process and stretch the field. He doesn't have that right now, and I think that's a big part of what their struggles are offensively. The interceptions, he's got to cut those down. I think he's had multiple games of 4 or more interceptions, but I think that's something the Jets need to do in the offseason is they need to get some wide receivers and playmakers around Darnold to make his job easier. And until that happens, you're going to continue to see him turn the ball over, have low production as far as passing, and overall their entire offense really struggled. But the field was a big part of it. And, Miami's 5-4. They might be the ugliest 5-4 in the league, but they're still 5-4.
Yep, the Atlanta Falcons, they're not 5-4. They wish they were. They were in a must-win game yesterday, and they did win it, and probably played their best 4 quarters of the season, a dominating victory at Washington.
I'm really surprised. I really thought, you looked at Washington and being on top of the NFC East and a fairly easy schedule the rest of the way. If you look at who they play right now based on records, only one team with a winning record. The rest of the teams were just kind of teetering around 500. You had an Atlanta team that was kind of underachieving, doesn't play well outdoors. I really thought that favored the Redskins, but you're absolutely right. The Falcons came into this game. Offensively, they had some big plays with Coleman and Ridley and Julio Jones. I thought this was one of Matt Ryan's best games of the year. They're still in the hunt at 4-4. It's a game they had to win. They're looking up at Carolina and New Orleans. They have another road game against Cleveland this week. But if Atlanta's offense continues to play like that, I think it'll help them immensely the second half of the season. The Redskins, just a lot of injuries now on the offensive line. They lose Paul Richardson. They've had injuries all year. I think it just opens up the door now in the NFC North or NFC East for Dallas and maybe Philadelphia to kind of make a run at it right now with all the injuries that Washington has.
Chuck, did you get any bets on Buffalo yesterday?
I think Brian Blessing was in action, I think. I love you, B, in case you're listening. But
hey, he did well at the Breeders' Cup. I know that.
He did. It was fun having him out for the Breeders' Cup seminar, and he hosts our football viewing party, just having some fun with him. But I thought it was a big number, and I know we talked about it last week, guys. But God, Nathan Peterman, and it's just there's not much else to say except I think all 3 Buffalo quarterbacks are ranked, dead last. in passing percentage. They just really struggle from that side. Again, they don't have a whole lot of weapons either. It's been a down year for McCoy. That defense hasn't been good. The Bears capitalized on a bunch of turnovers. Trubisky didn't have a big game, but the defense just dominated. Only 4 sacks, but the turnovers, and 2 of them they converted to 14